Hey, this is Al McGee with YETicket.com. I'm here with the director and two cast members for this film called The Big Bend. Man, I saw that film and I said, this is unusual. I mean, it's telling the story of this family, or well, two families, but boy, I've never been in that type of scenario in the desert and things like that. And Brett, why don't you tell us about this film? You directed it and you wrote it, so tell us about it a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So The Big Bend tells the story of two families getting together for a reunion in the desert. They've known each other for a long time, but they also haven't seen each other in a while. And both of those families are going through something. You know, they're both dealing with some private crises that they're hoping to keep quiet and keep secret from the other family, just for the sake of having a good time together. But on a hike, one of the children goes missing, and that crisis pulls the lid off everything else that's going on in these families, and it all comes spilling out in a giant glorious mess. And that's the story. For me, it was about some of the real world anxieties and concerns that we start to encounter when we become parents, and you know, start dealing with issues, you know, that come with some maturity, and yet when those things get moved to as remote and stark and, you know, dangerous and yet beautiful a place as the West Texas desert, it all takes on a different meaning, and it becomes a little bit surreal. So I think it's a little bit about recognizing how fragile we really are, and what a strange and beautiful world it is that we live in.
Well, Brett Wagner, you wrote this also. Why did you write this? Did you base this on your experience, or a story you read, or other people's experience? How did this idea come into your head?
Yeah, it was very much personal experience. Aaron Brown, the producer of the movie, he lives in Texas. He's a Texas native, and he got this little house out in the desert. And our families got together a few years ago now, for just this kind of vacation. And now none of the, or not all, I don't want to say none, the deep, dramatic, real, horrible, life-threatening situations that arise in the movie, that's fiction. But so many of the small moments, the little weird, magical, bizarre desert moments in this movie are absolutely true, and are how they happened. And I was inspired by those, and sort of seduced by them, and I really wanted to make a movie in the desert. So I went back and you know, wrote a script that included a lot of you know, what I saw and experienced out there. And honestly, I could have written an entire additional script with what I left out. And the more dramatic elements became, you know, the skeleton to build those details and textures onto. So that it really all started with the desert for me.
Erica Ash, you played Georgia in this film. And again, welcome, Erica. I'm a big fan of yours. I'm so glad to see your beautiful face and also your acting. Now, you played Georgia, and you're married to this guy named Mac. Why did you decide to say, hey, I can do this, I want to do this, and this is part of me?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been faced with situations that I felt were really stressful for me. And I've been in a place where I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to get it out, and I couldn't find the way to get it out because I felt guilty about how I felt. And this character's struggle resonated with those kinds of struggles that I've had. And I thought, if they resonate with my struggles, surely they resonate with many other women's struggles. And for me, in filmmaking, anytime I choose a role, there has to be some element of self-help, if that makes
Right.
any sense.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
I think by seeing our stories mirrored to us, as nuanced as they may be, it really does help someone be able to face whatever struggles they're going through. So, for instance, in this film, Georgia is faced with the struggle of being happy enough, but knowing that there could be more in her life, having everything on paper look absolutely perfect, and no one could tell her that her life wasn't great, but she doesn't want to be there. And that's a hard thing to say. That's a hard thing to share with your family. It's a hard thing to confront yourself. And I think that there are a lot more people going through that than are willing to speak on it, because in some sense it seems selfish to them. But I think that, that is a huge, huge nuance of the film that I felt needed to be out and needed to be expressed. And so I was happy to be the one to share that. And I, just to even be a part of the film, period, because I thought the entire script was great. But I really, really dug that about the character Georgia.
Yeah, but also Georgia seemed to say, well, I'm happy, I got everything is good, but is the grass greener on the other side? Is that what she was looking for? A little bit more better grass, or something much better? But when you had
She's
everything.
she was smoking some good grass up in the
I was going to say,
bathtub.
literally,
But
um, she had some pretty good kush out there, Al. But Georgia, not me, Georgia.
That's why I said Georgia.
Um, but it was, yeah. I think that she was, but I don't think that she knew exactly what it was that she wanted. So when you have the quote unquote perfect life on paper, you have the 2.5 kids, the husband, the house, the car, and then you've got this summer house in the middle of Texas. What more could you ask for? So yes, she did want to explore what else was out there, but what else is out there? You know what I mean? So that was her
Yeah.
struggle. It was just trying to figure out, how could I be happier? I don't know, but I know that I can.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I understand that.
do I have a right
And
to be happier? You know what I mean?
exactly.
She's
In
a
the
mom
face,
of these two
especially.
beautiful kids, and do I have a right
Yeah,
to be happier? Yeah.
yeah.
well,
When
yeah,
my
and Jason, that was seems to be Corey's thing too. He seems to be very happy with his family.
Loves
Is
them.
that the way I perceive Corey's role, or the character's role, or
Yeah.
the character's thinking?
Yeah, he's got a great marriage. I mean, for the most part, they love each other. They communicate well. They're navigating a really challenging health crisis and struggle for their family, just between the two of them, trying to be responsible and not burden certainly their children or their extended family, but also, life is hard. Life is hard. We know that now. We knew it before, but we really know it now, that life is a
Yeah.
struggle. And how do you face each challenge before you? And you're going to surprise yourself with the solutions. And if you can get quiet enough, and that can happen especially out in the desert, hopefully hopefully some solutions are going to present themselves that you either discover or that are discovered for you, I guess is the way.
Yeah. Yeah, but also this too, Corey seems to, in the film, really not looking for any other new solutions. He was happy with what he had right there in front of him. And yes, some issues did come up with Corey, but he seemed to be okay about it.
Well, I mean, he knows, here's a spoiler alert, but like basically he knows that he is not long for this world. He's got a health diagnosis that is not going to be great, and he's trying to figure
Right.
out how he can provide for his family when he's not here. And so he's trying to live life and be present in the present moment with his friends and his children, and just have a good time. But in
Right.
so doing, life is messy. In so doing, it puts a tremendous amount of pressure, certainly on his wife first and foremost. But then, and then other things happen as well. Obviously, his daughter goes missing, and that just takes precedent of everything else that happens in this world. And then there's these elements that Brett has woven in a great way, where There's kind of a supernatural, surrealist element that, you know, when I'm sure you've had moments in your life where you're like, how did that happen? The synchronicity of these two things happening. Somebody else was doing something.
Every month.
So there's an element there, you know, where, like, there is something. It's so hard to capture what that part of the country is like. I think we did a fantastic job of it, but to be out there filming and just surrender to the realities of it, whether it's a rainstorm or no communication or nature or good people or some scrambled eggs or whatever is the thing that you have out there, just be like, this is where I'm at. Okay, where do I want to be, or how long do I have to sit in this position as part of me to answer in that moment? And Corey's in that position where he's like, okay, here's the cards I've been dealt, and what am I going to do? I'm going to take a breath here for a second.
Yeah. And Brett, as the director, when you casting, what made you feel that they're the best actors for these roles? Because I don't know if you cast had the major casting when you talk to hundreds of actors, but what made you say, hey, these are the best people for this role, Brett?
You know, in the case of Jason, I had seen him on Ozark, you know, as FBI agent Roy Petty, and I think anybody who saw the first 2 seasons of Ozark will never forget that part. And
I know,
and that will be remembered as one of the truly iconic television performances of recent years.
Oh,
I mean, truly unforgettable. And he was, you know, the first person and the only person that we offered that part to. And when he eventually said yes, you know, our casting director, Tina Becker, said, you know, nobody gets their first choice, right? You know, that doesn't happen. You don't offer it and the first person says yes. It just doesn't happen. And so that made me think, okay, maybe we're on a ride here. Maybe the wind is at our back a little bit, and we're gonna find the right people. And sure enough, we did. And you know, Erica came through auditions and was just, you know, if I hesitated, it was because I thought she was a little too glamorous. And like gorgeous to be out in the desert.
That beauty is overwhelming.
I'm not just trying to flatter her right now. We literally had this conversation. We were like, yeah, but is she kind of just too beautiful and like a little like, you know, not like it but no, like she's managed to be both absolutely like authentically convincing as somebody who can live and enjoy that life, while also just bringing her sort of natural vivaciousness to the part. You know, the movie can be, you know, I mean, it deals with a lot of heavy issues, right? And it can be, you know, serious. And I feel like Georgia, even though that character is struggling, you know, through Georgia, like Erica just brings this life and vitality, and there's just moments where she laughs that it just lightens up the whole movie in a way that you know, I think makes the movie, despite everything it addresses, fun. You know, I think there is fun in this movie. And another actor who brings that to it is David Sullivan. And Mac was the hardest part to cast. You know, you were asking, we look at hundreds of people, and I don't know if we got to the triple digits, but I know we looked at, like, I just couldn't find anybody who felt like Mac to me for a long time. You know, to the point where it's getting scary, to the point that we're just like a few weeks from shooting, and it's like, not happy with anybody that I've got. Not that they weren't good actors. Some of them were excellent actors. Some of them were actors whose names, you know, you'd recognize. But they just, like, it's hard to inhabit that guy, you know? And then David Sullivan came along, who, you know, I'm a huge fan of the movie Primer, which was David's first movie back in 2004, little science fiction movie set in Dallas. I thought he was amazing. I had no idea this was him. until I later looked him up. But he just was, aside from being from Texas, he just got the kind of chaotic energy of Mac's character, and the big heart, but he's also a little bit of a screw up, and just the desire for people to be happy and the confusion when people aren't. He just got that and was that, and so that was a huge relief. And then
how'd you find the boys? How'd you find the boys? Because they're so
wait, I
good.
just want to touch on
sorry.
Virginia before I get to the kids. So the part though that was cast last, that was really truly tough, was the part of Melanie. And by this time Jason was in, and he and I were having a lot of conversations about who the right actress was, and it was going to be an offer, not an audition at this point. We'd gone through a lot of auditions and hadn't found the person. So now we're going down, like, who can we offer this to? And even, nobody knows who I am. So it was like, Jason, can you call people you've worked with and actors that you admired? And he mentioned Virginia, and I went and watched her work, and I thought, oh my gosh, she's so deep, and she's so raw. She's so there, fully there. And I watched, intensely dramatic scenes she'd done, and then I watched lighthearted scenes she'd done, for example, Big Little Lies. She's almost a comical character in Big Little Lies. And so I could see that she had the range, and both sides of her were there. So we offer her the part. And her, I don't remember if it was her agent or her manager, says, by the way, you should know she's like 6 weeks pregnant. And I was like, I was doing the math. I was like, okay, we're only 3 weeks out from production. We're only shooting for a month. That's fine. She won't even be showing. She'll be barely 3.5 months pregnant by the time we're done. And then she calls me, and she's like, yeah, I don't know what my agent told you, but I'm 4 months pregnant. And then we had to have a conversation. By the time we finished, she was going to be more than 5 months pregnant with twins. And so we were quite sure that she would be showing. But I really wanted her by this point. Like, I really wanted her to be Melanie. And so we had a conversation, and we did some brainstorming, and there was some late night texting, between Virginia and I, and we finally hit on a way to build her pregnancy into the story. And I don't want to talk about exactly how, because it's something of a spoiler, but to address it and to make it realistic, so that we didn't have to try to do a lot of framing the camera so that you can't tell that she's got a baby bump.
You did a very good job.
Yeah, thank you. So that became a big part of the story, that now I kind of forget that there was ever a script where that wasn't part of the story. So, it was incredibly fortunate. And of course, we didn't do any chemistry reads. There was no time. We were a couple of weeks away by this time. And in some cases, there was no rehearsal, because, some of the actors were arriving after we were already a day or two into shooting. So some of this, the amazing chemistry of the actors, is just good fortune. They're incredible actors. They're bringing every ounce of, professionalism to it. But we, even that can't necessarily guarantee that you're going to get these really believable marriages, and these really believable family units. And I feel like we did. The boys, we auditioned a lot of, really great kids, and
those are all 4 of the kids are very good in this film. Those young actors. They are very good and very believable too. And that's why I enjoyed this. But one more person that I'd like for you to just talk about briefly is Paul Atkins, your director of photography. He really brought that out, the scenery, the desert. He really brought that out with his photography. Have you ever worked with him before? And tell me a little bit about him.
Yeah, I have definitely worked. I've worked with him almost nonstop for about 15 years. I had the good fortune of hooking up with him at a time when he was just kind of taking a little break from a very successful career in wildlife documentaries, National Geographic, BBC, Discovery Channel. And he was looking for narrative work, and he wanted to start telling, I mean, documentaries are stories too, but he wanted to start telling some fictional stories. And we started working together. We shot a film called Chief, which premiered at Sundance. We shot it out in Hawaii, where we both lived at the time, and it played all over the world and was really just a wonderful experience. Very, very different from The Big Bend. And as a movie, I mean, not as an experience, although also a different experience. And we've been working together ever since on TV commercials and other projects and other drama. And to get to shoot this feature together in the desert was a dream, and I'm so glad that the schedule worked out to make it possible. But yeah, this the desert is an enormous character in the story, and Paul is the one who really knew how to just work with the light. We had very few tools.
Oh yeah, he did a great job.
We did not have a big truck of equipment. We had a tiny van full of equipment, and so we were working with what we had out there in the desert, and he just did a miraculous job with it.
Yeah. And Erica, again, going back to your character Georgia, she really opened up to Melanie. Why did Georgia feel that she can really trust Melanie?
I think it was more of a woman to woman thing than anything. If she had an opportunity to make anyone understand, it was not going to be the guys. So, right. in her guilt, that was one of the big things that played out, at least for my character buildup. Guilt was a big factor of her expressing her displeasure with a life that was so perfect. And so especially,
so Melanie, she made you feel very natural to talk to, and also she made you feel very comfortable.
Georgia needed someone. She needed someone. Otherwise, she was going to implode. And I think that the environment and the situation and the circumstance of especially the two of them being naked in the bath together, just in their rawest, purest forms, I think that kind of drew out. And the weed probably helped for her to feel comfortable and relaxed enough to share with Melanie about what it was that she was feeling. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The other thing I would throw in about that scene is, because that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. These are characters who have known each other for a long time, right? Like the backstory is never explicit, but Corey and Mac were friends back in college. Their lives have gone different ways, but they, their wives have seen each other again and again over a period of years, but still always as a couple, and now there's one of these moments where they're on their own, right? And Georgia is going through something really, really tough. And so is Melanie, but neither of them knows that the other is. And what I think is really complex about that bathtub scene that maybe the audience can only truly fully appreciate if you ever see the movie a second time is Georgia is telling Melanie her deepest secret. Mm-hmm. And Melanie is not reciprocating. Melanie is keeping her own counsel because her husband has asked her not to. And that's hard. That's hard in that moment, especially because what Georgia is saying comes from this position of like, she has, and from an outward perspective, she has a good life. Everything's fine. And she even says it. She says it literally, everything's fine. Mm. And in Melanie's life, everything is absolutely not fine. Everything is about to come crashing down around her. And so there's so much going on. And the actors know what's happening, but you know, you can see when you watch it after you find out everything that the movie has to reveal, you can see how Erica and Virginia are playing the interiority of that scene in just a really marvelous way. And it's kind of, you know, it's one of the things about movies. Unfortunately, people don't see them twice very often, but I hope that I think we've made a movie that would stand up to being seen a second time and would offer new rewards for somebody to see it a second time.
I truly enjoyed the film, and I really enjoyed it. But not only that, I enjoyed you guys. I am so glad to talk to you. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Jason. Thank you for taking time with me, Al McGee at yeticket.com. I truly appreciate it, and also appreciate your art and your artwork. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Pleasure to meet you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Peace be with you.
This is your entertainment ticket. Latest and greatest.